What's up, my good people? I'm back at it, man. I got a question about yeast infections. So we want to know, why do men and women catch yeast infections? Well, I'll tell you. A lot of these words that I'm gonna be pronouncing are Latin medical words. I'm not Latin. I don't speak Latin. So bear with me with the pronunciation of these words. All right. I'm not a doctor. This is just informational based only. Here we go. What is a yeast infection? Most vaginal yeast infections are caused by organisms Candida albicans. Yeast infections are very common and affect up to 75% of the women at some point in their lifetime. The main symptom of vaginal yeast infection is itching, burning, discharge, and pain when urinating and of course as well. But listen, we don't want no pain for our women. You know what I mean? Itching and burning and pain, urinating and having when we in intercourse. You know, they up there in pain. You know, we might be trying to marry these women and have children with these women, and they might be trying to do the same thing as well. So we don't want them having all these types of problems, all right? So we need to fix that, okay? But that's what yeast infections are. But how do men catch yeast infections? Well, I'll tell you. Although uncommon, men can get yeast infections as well. Well, it's basically from unprotected sex with a woman with candida of vaginitis. That's yeast infection, right? They can get redness, dryness, white spots, rashes, and all this stuff. And men that is not circumcised is at an increased risk. All right? So we need to start protecting ourselves, fellas. And also, we need to start making sure that you circumcise, okay? So if you're not circumcised, go get circumcised, all right? Because you don't want to be carrying catching no yeast infections, all right? But we're going to tell you some great information on how to prevent this. Well, let's keep going. Can a yeast infection spread throughout the body? Well, we'll talk about that at another time. What causes chronic yeast infections? The imbalance that causes the overgrowth of yeast to happen can be due to what? Antibiotics, pregnancy, uncontrolled diabetes, weak immune system. Really, weak immune system is the real key, y'all. When your immune system weak, the antibiotics will cause that. And the pregnancy will cause that, and the uncontrolled diabetes, and the poor eating habits, and the sugary foods, the hormonal balance near your menstrual cycle, and stress. But when your immune system is weak, y'all, man, you're gonna catch a yeast infection. But let me keep on so I can drop this knowledge. All right, it says what yeast infection is, y'all. Candida albicans. But what is that? I don't speak Latin. I don't know these all medical terms. Well, Candida albicans is a fungus that is normally presented on the skin and mucous membranes such as vagina, mouth, or rectum. The fungus also can travel through the bloodstream and affect the throat, intestines, and heart valves. Well, we don't need it all up in our throat and our heart and our intestines and our heart valves and our blood neither, because it's fungus. We don't need fungus up in our bloodstream and none of that. So what is fungus? Well, fungus, any of the group of uncellular, multicellular, or syncytial spore-producing organism feeding on organic matter, including mold and yeast. And it says mushrooms as well. But the thing is this, yeast, right? It feeds on yeast. So what is uncellular organisms? Well, the main group of uncellular organisms are bacteria, right? Archaea, protozoa, uncellular algae, and uncellular fungi. Okay? Then you have uncellular organisms fall into two general categories. There's prokaryotic organisms and eukaryotic organisms. That's bacteria. Do you hear me? Right? All right. But we want to know. We know what the unicellular organisms are. They bacteria. So we want to know what yeast is. Well, a microscopic fungus consisting of single oval cell that reproduce a budding and are capable of converting sugar into alcohol and carbon dioxide. Right? It says alcohol. Okay, what is alcohol? Well, let's find out what alcohol is. Alcohol, also ethyl alcohol, grain alcohol, ethanol, right? Fermentation alcohol, a colorless, limpid, volatile, flammable, water, miscible liquid, having a ether-like odor or pungent, burning taste and intoxicating principle of fermented liquor produced by yeast fermentation of certain carbohydrates as grain, molasses, starch, and sugar. Now, you hear that, y'all? Carbohydrates, grain, molasses, starch, and sugar. That's what carbohydrates is. Sugar. Because carbohydrates break down into sugar. Starch break down into sugar break down into acid. You feel me? So this is what alcohol is. Alcohol is ethanol. Okay, well, ethanol. Let's check out this ethanol. Alright? Ethanol is what? Ethanol, ethyl alcohol, grain alcohol, ethanol. They keep going back to alcohol, right? So, we want to not be confused when they talking about all these different terms. You hear? Volatile, flammable liquid produced by yeast fermentation of carbohydrates. You see that? So that's what alcohol is. Alcohol comes from the yeast. And that what they said the yeast was. What is yeast? It's microscopic fungus, consists of single oval cells that reproduce by budding and are capable of converting sugar into alcohol. So yeast converts sugar into alcohol. Right? So when you is over consuming all this yeast, right? It's converting into sugar, into alcohol. You see? And that's going to mess up your immune system and not allow it to clean up the lymphatic system. You see what I'm saying? And when you it's not cleaning up the lymphatic system, you're going to have all these what? Problems. Where you're going to have all these problems right here. Uncontrolled diabetes, weak immune system, poor eating habits, sugary foods that's bothering the lymphatic system, which is in the immune system inside the lymphatic system, causing a hormonal imbalancement. Right? So I want y'all to know that the yeast converts sugar into alcohol. And alcohol is ethanol. Ethanol is alcohol. Same thing. Produced by yeast fermentation of carbohydrates. Sugar. What do I mean? What types of sugar? Well, these types of sugar. Foods that cause candida, overgrowth. Burgers. You see that? You see that burgers with that yeast, that bread, and all them the hot dogs and all them chips and all that beer right there with the yeast and the bread with the pizza. We consume this stuff on a daily basis. All throughout the day, large quantities of it. So for women, that's what causes your yeast infection. Carbohydrates, sugar. You see? Turning into ethanol. You see? Acid, inflammation. You see? But what gets rid of those? I mean, all that. Well, these are the foods that kill Candida. I'm sorry. Green leafy vegetables, y'all. Dandelion greens, coconut oil, ginger. I speak about ginger all the time. The master healer, when I went to see him, he told me broccoli ain't all that. He said it ain't got no nutritional value, so I ain't gonna get to talking about that one. But when you get to talking about ginger and zucchini and turnip greens and you see kale, thyme, onions, man, that stuff will do wonders. It kills the candida, the fungus, the yeast infections. So I want y'all to know that these foods is what's giving you yeast infections, ladies. And the men is catching the yeast infections from the ladies or from not being circumcised. So we want y'all to start paying attention to what you're eating. And guys, we want you to start protecting yourself and making sure you get circumcised. You hear me? But ladies, more than anything, stay away from that yeast, that bread that's giving you yeast infections, that phony sugar, that starch, that pasta, them breads. You hear what I'm saying? You feel what I'm talking about? Stay away from that stuff. Them carbohydrates is giving you yeast infections. I love y'all. Hope it was very informational to you. Let's keep it going, y'all. Be alkaline, baby. Peace.